I hope everybody received the wonderful, marvelous news that Rabbi Alex Braver will be our next rabbi here, beginning July 1st of this coming year. Many of us are absolutely thrilled that he will be here again, but in Alex 2.0 version. And when one thinks of Alex, often many of us think of Sarit. And when we think of Sarit, we think of Alex because they were here fellows at the same time, and they were one of the Zugot, we had a number of fellows that came in pairs. Jessica and Mayor, John and Adam, and Sarit and Alex. And we have the real pleasure of having Sarit here again after so many years. Sarit was a fellow for 2 years, but she stayed for 4. We couldn't let her go. Sarit is now Rabbi Sarit Horwitz is now the director of rabbinic leadership programs at the Shalom Hartman Institute of North America. Previously, she served as rabbi of Beth Shalom Synagogue in Memphis, Tennessee, since 2017. If you talk to her, you'll see, detect a little accent.
You do have to call her rabbi.
What is it?
In Memphis, they just call her rabbi.
Rabbi, yes.
Yeah, rabbi.
Rabbi, yeah. I can't do that. Rabbi is busy. Prior to Beth Shalom, Sarit was the Senior Rabbinic Fellow at BJ on Manhattan's Upper West Side. That's what it says in her bio. Where she spent 4 years deeply engaged in spiritual leadership, teaching, and community building. Sarit was ordained in 2015 at the Jewish Theological Seminary, where she also earned a master's degree in Jewish women and gender studies, and was a Wexner Graduate Fellow. She's married to Rabbi Abi Schachter-Gampel, who is here somewhere with their children. And together they are the proud parents of 3 sons. And I had the pleasure of attending their wedding in 2015, and it was unforgettable. So it's a great pleasure and honor to have Sarit back in the area again. They live in Riverdale, so sometimes they're going to come down to Manhattan. It's great to see you.
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom. When speaking about different types of longing, we often use hunger as a metaphor. We'll speak about people that are hungry for knowledge, or say that someone has a hunger for a deep spiritual dive. It's a useful metaphor because hunger is an experience we all know, and I hope satiation is one we know too. We know the feeling of having a craving fulfilled, the transformational shift that happens when we move from longing to fulfillment. The Sfat Emet wrote about the different dimensions of longing that are present when one is hungry. Hungry for food and hungry for meaning, for spiritual depth, for emotional connection. This ra'avon, hunger, he says, is something we usually experience primarily on the physical level. The need to satiate ourselves, which of course can only be satisfied once we eat food. The Sfat Emet refers to this as lechem hagashmi, physical bread. We continue to feel that deep hunger until the food is quite literally in our bellies. And sometimes, as we all know, the hunger actually intensifies when we can see the food, but we haven't eaten it yet. But the Sfat Emet also speaks about the spiritual dimension of hunger, about receiving what he calls lechem min hashamayim, heavenly nourishment. This is about our souls feeling the lack of one of their most basic needs. Unlike physical hunger, he teaches, this spiritual longing begins to feel satiated even when one merely sees the lechem min hashamayim and knows that that need will be met even if it hasn't been fully received yet. You might be familiar with that feeling, knowing that you just need to come to shul on a Friday night after a rough week and feeling better the moment you walk in before you've even opened your siddur. Or when you feel like you haven't had a lot of social connection lately and someone reaches out to you to make plans, you haven't even had the experience yet, and somehow something has already shifted. It's lechem min hashamayim, heavenly bread, satiating before it lands. Both of these kinds of ra'avon, hunger and longing, appear in this week's Parsha of Miketz. And it begins, of course, with the most painful form of physical hunger, famine. There is famine in the land. Yaakov and his sons are suffering from the famine that Joseph foresaw in his dreams. They are in Canaan. Yosef is in Mitzrayim. He dreamed of those 7 years of plenty, followed by 7 years of famine, and because of that dream, he became an advisor to Pharaoh, storing enough during the years of abundance so that the famine would not be catastrophic. But Yaakov and his sons, the ones that he knows are still alive, are suffering all the way in Canaan. They didn't know the famine was coming. They didn't prepare. And the Torah tells us, Vayar Yaakov ki yesh shever b'Mitzrayim. Yaakov saw that there was shever in Mitzrayim. Vayomer Yaakov levanav lama titrau. And Yaakov said to his sons, why are you helplessly looking at one another? Vayomer hine shamati ki yesh shever b'Mitzrayim. He said, behold, I have heard there is shever in Mitzrayim. Redu shama v'shivru lanu misham v'nichye v'lo namut. Go down there and get us food so that we can live and not die. Yaakov sees that there is shever in Mitzrayim. From context, it seems that this word is food or grain, but shever is a curious choice. Just a few verses later, when the brothers actually go down to Mitzrayim, the Torah uses the word for food, the one that's a little more straightforward, ochel. On the pshat level, the plain meaning of this, Yaakov is doing what any parent would do. He sees where there is food and sends his family to go get it. But this famine, as we'll see, suggests that the prospect of food for this heartbroken, fractured family is about more than physical satiation. The Torah's language hits at something deeper because shever carries deeper meanings as well. The root shin bet resh usually means brokenness. What you would say if you broke a bone or a vase. Some teachings suggest that shever is used specifically in moments of food emergency when things feel broken. And it can also refer to emotional or spiritual brokenness. The psalmist says, Karov Adonai lenishbarei lev. God is close to the brokenhearted. So Yaakov saw that there was shever in Mitzrayim. Perhaps he saw not only that there was food there, but also brokenness. But the Torah adds a puzzle. First, Yaakov saw, Vayar Yaakov, that there was shever in Mitzrayim, and then it says, Hine shamati, he heard that it was there. How could he see that there was shever in Mitzrayim? Some commentators understand this seeing as a form of prophecy. Perhaps Yaakov perceived that there was something there that could already nourish and heal him, because part of his ra'avon, his hunger, was not only physical. Part of his longing was for a wholeness that had been absent for decades since his son sold Yosef. And so while Yaakov did not know that Yosef was in Mitzrayim, perhaps on some level he knew that a shift was possible. And already, with the sight of shever in Mitzrayim, began to feel a little bit satiated. because shever is also connected to another word spelled with the same letters, sever, meaning hope. In the Psalms we read, Sivro al Adonai Elohav, that we look to God with hope. The difference is only a dot, the vowel that makes the letter a shin or a sin. Read this way, Vayar Yaakov ki yesh sever b'Mitzrayim. Yaakov saw that there was hope in Mitzrayim. A midrash plays with this connection, highlighting how intertwined brokenness and hope can be. There was brokenness, the verse says. The midrash responds, this is the famine. There was hope. The midrash says, these were the years of plenty. There was brokenness. Yosef was taken down to Mitzrayim. There was hope. Yosef rose to power. There was brokenness. The Israelites were enslaved. There was hope. They were redeemed. Maybe Yaakov saw the brokenness that would become Israelite slavery in Mitzrayim. Maybe he saw the brokenness within his own family, and perhaps he also saw sever, hope, that it would be in Mitzrayim where they would find food, where he would ultimately learn that Yosef was still alive, where reconciliation would begin. Brokenness and hope are nestled within one another. The Midrash moves back and forth, but I don't think it wants us to see the relationship as merely sequential. Sever, hope, is not simply a response that comes after shever, brokenness. But the dialectical tension reminds us that we have the possibility of hope after brokenness. As Aviva Zornberg writes, before such a crisis, in a condition of wholeness and security, hope is irrelevant. After it, some plausible reconstruction of the shards become essential. Hope is the work of trying to reassemble what has shattered, even when it can never be whole in the same way. What's remarkable about Yaakov is that despite the deep pain he has endured, he acts from hope. He sends his sons into motion rather than allowing them to remain frozen, helplessly staring at one another. Hope is not naivete, denying the pain, but an orientation that Yaakov has, insisting that things don't have to remain the way they are. It's the antidote to despair, not because it erases the suffering, but because it allows for the possibility of emerging from it. Moving from the world of shever to sever is daring to trust that a shattered condition won't always be such. In reality, it doesn't mean that we won't ever be disappointed. As Zornberg writes, that is the nature of the shever world into which Yosef has disappeared. There is hope in Mitzrayim, and there is also brokenness in Mitzrayim. They are too intertwined for us to expect that we can have one without the other, but in order to bear the brokenness, we must figure out how to find the sever, the hope. This past summer, I had the opportunity and the pleasure of speaking with podcast host Krista Tippett about hope and despair in this moment. She describes an exercise in which she asks people what in this world is pushing them towards despair, and separately, what might be giving them hope. And she finds that the two are often intimately linked. Hope tends to emerge precisely at the site of despair. Yesh shever b'Mitzrayim, there is brokenness in Egypt. Yesh sever, there is hope there too. The way to find hope is by entering the place itself. Yaakov sends his sons into the brokenness because perhaps he sees that hope lives there as well. Krista described to me hope as connected to human imagination, the ability to envision a world that does not exist yet. The world only changes when human beings imagine something different and then work to make it real. Perhaps that is the type of imagination that was exactly what Yaakov's seeing was about. Yaakov's instructions to his sons end with the words, v'nichyeh, and so we will live. Yes, food sustains the body, but perhaps hope sustains life as well. Their physical lives depend on the spiritual belief that something has the possibility to get better. That is hope. And that too is the Hanukkah miracle, not only that the oil lasted 8 days or that the Maccabees won a war, but the miracle of the first night. If the oil was expected to last 1 day and lasted 8, then the miracle of the first night, when they knew that it would last for 1, is that the people chose to light at all in their defiled temple. They entered into the place of brokenness, and they dared to dream of a different future. And this too is Jews, davka after a horrific attack at a Hanukkah celebration in Sydney, showing up in even greater numbers to celebrate publicly. This is young students, our future, mobilizing against gun violence, refusing to be governed by fear. We live in a world of yesh shever b'Mitzrayim. There is brokenness in that very narrow place. But we can draw on Yaakov, who saw, who imagined that perhaps there is also sever. There is also hope. And just as Yaakov looked into Mitzrayim, a place of deep darkness for our people, and was able to discern hope, so too may we find light in these days of darkness, daring to imagine a different world.